A very good evening to all my dear students. So welcome to the session for chapter number 9 for the auditing and assurance subject. I hope students that the chapters that you have covered so far in these sessions, that is still chapter number 8, is everything is clear to all of you, right? And I also expect that you all have started studying hard and you all have started preparing this subject, right? So I can see a number of you have already joined. Ustad, Bhumika, Diksha, Rajiv, Darshan, Mohit, Logasundar, Manisha, Sudhanshu. A very good evening to all my dear students. So students, today we'll be starting with chapter number 9, which is audit of items of financial statements. Okay? So I hope you all are ready to start with this very interesting and very simple chapter. Yes, this is a lengthy chapter, but believe me, be with me, keep on understanding the concepts, keep on summarizing these concepts, and your chapter will be prepared with ease. So, I can see others are also joining, Komal, Guduru, Prasanna. So let us start this chapter. And as I always do, before starting any chapter, we try to understand as to why we are studying a particular chapter, as to why we are studying a particular topic. So the name of the chapter is what? Audit of items of financial statements. Students, I expect that by so far the definition of term audit you must have understood and you must have learned also. So quickly, I need replies from you. You must be having an understanding of the term audit by now. Quickly send in your reply. So whereby you have studied in detail the definition of audit in chapter number 1, that audit is an independent examination of financial information of any entity, whether profit oriented or not, irrespective of size of its size and legal form, where such an examination is conducted to express an opinion thereon, right? Of items of financial statements. So before understanding these terms, let us have a look at a paragraph that we all have done, we have covered in chapter number 3. Students, this paragraph beautifully explains as to why we are studying this topic, that is chapter number 9, right? So if you look at this paragraph, it says that every financial statement contains an overall representation in addition to specific assertions so far discussed. Each financial statement purports to present something as a whole in addition to its components details. For example, an income statement purports to present the results of operation. A balance sheet purports to present the financial position. The auditor's opinion is typically directed to these overall representation. So we have seen in the definition of term audit also, the last line says to express an opinion thereon. Thereon implies on the financial statements, right? But to formulate and offer an opinion on the overall truth of these statements. These statement is what? Your financial statements. What all are included in financial statement we will discuss, and you must be having understanding from chapter number 1 also. The auditor has first to inquire into the truth of many specific assertions, expressed or implied, both positive and negative, that makes up each of these statements. Out of his individual judgments on the specific assertion, he arrives at a judgment on the financial statement as a whole. So whenever you look at an audit report, you will see that the auditor is giving an opinion on the financial statement as a whole, that whether the financial statement reflects a true and fair view. The report as such will not say that the sales figure is not reflecting true and fair view, or the statement of changes in equity is not reflecting true and fair view. The opinion is given on the financial statement as a whole, and that is not possible unless and until The auditor conducts the audit or he verifies each and every assertion that is appearing in the financial statement. So let us just have a look as to what the financial statements are made of. So if you look at the definition given in section 2, clause 40 of the Companies Act 2013, financial statement in relation to a company includes a balance sheet as at the year end. You all know that the balance sheet is prepared as on a particular date, as on 31st March, right? Profit and loss account of a company or income and expenditure as the case may be for the financial year. So we write P&L for the year ending so and so, right? Cash flow statement for the financial year, statement of changes in equity if applicable, and the explanatory notes, that is the notes to account, right? So unless and until the auditor gets a comfort with respect to the various items that are appearing in the balance sheet, in the profit and loss account, in the cash flow statement, in the statement of changes in equity, and the explanatory notes to account, the auditor is not in a position to give an opinion on the financial statement as a whole, right? So in order to fulfill the objective as per SA 200, whereby the auditor has to express an opinion on the financial statement as a whole, auditor will have to conduct the audit of each and every item of the financial statement. Hana? So Abhi, what we have discussed, we are just discussing as to why we are studying this chapter. Hana, students, by so far you have studied the essays, whatever are the essays relevant to your syllabus of 200 series, right? Of 300 series, starting from your planning, your materiality, then 500 series relating to your audit evidence, right? Whatever knowledge you have gained so far, right? Now you will see in this chapter how those standards on auditing will be applied with respect to various items that are appearing in the financial statement. How the audit procedures you have done in detail about audit procedures, in fact, with me only in chapter number 3. Now you will see as to how, with respect to a particular assertion, a particular item appearing in the financial statement, a particular audit procedure will be applied. Hana? So practically how the audit is conducted, that you are going to study in this chapter. So theoretically this chapter is very, very important. You may like if you look at the last year trend, this chapter the marks ranges from 10 to 20 marks, right? But practically also, from your examination point of view, no doubt this chapter is very, very important. But students, practically also you will see that, see, okay, if during your articleship you are being given a task to audit, to conduct the audit with respect to the share capital. So what all documents you are going to peruse, what all documents you are going to verify, right? That we are going to study. Let's say you are given a task to send external confirmation to debtors. How that process will be carried on. So very important chapter from the point of view of your examination as well as the practical aspect, right? And whatever knowledge you have gained so far till chapter number 8, I told you, starting from all the essays, Hana, you started with essay 200, right, relating to overall objective, and the last essay that you did in chapter number 8 was what? Essay 520 relating to analytical procedures. Everything, how to apply all those knowledge with respect to the various items of financial statements. Okay? So quickly send in your reply whether have you all understood as to what is contained in this chapter? Quickly send in your reply. And yes, I would like to tell you here that students, general answers will never fetch you good marks, Hana. So see, in this chapter, you all already have an understanding about the various accounting standards, the various provisions of the Companies Act, right? For example, let's take an example of let's say sales recognition, right? You all have done the relevant accounting standard. You all know how Schedule 3 Companies Act, the disclosure requirements are to be done. Now, with respect to the auditor will have to see whether the company has done that, whether the management has done that as per the relevant applicable financial reporting framework, right? So if the accounting standards are applicable, so whether management has done it like that or not. If certain provisions of Companies Act are applicable, whether the management of that company has complied with all those provisions or not. This is what the auditor will be doing in this chapter, right? And I'll be assuming that various accounting standards, various provisions of the Companies Act that are already there in your accounts and law are already clear to you. But yes, as and when the reference will come, we will definitely touch upon that topic. So far, it is required for the purpose of this subject. Clear? So Syed, Manisha, Bhumika, Rajiv, Diksha, Darshan, Bhumika, everyone is saying, ma'am, yes, the reason as to why we are studying this chapter is clear. Now, students, we all have done a topic named assertion in chapter number 1. In chapter number 3, I have covered this topic with all of you in quite a detail. But since this chapter, chapter number 9, is totally based on the concept of assertion, I'll be again touching upon this topic, a quick recap as to what assertion are, and then we'll be proceeding with the various items of financial statement. Okay? Quickly tell me, now I need quick interaction from your side. Quickly tell me, who is responsible for preparation of financial statements? Quickly tell me. Students, I want this session to be as interactive as possible. And how will that be possible? I'm playing my part. Now you have to play your part. You have to send in your replies. So Ustad, Darshan, Bhumika, absolutely correct. See, management is responsible for the preparation of financial statements. Okay? Now, what is meant by term assertion? If you look at the dictionary meaning of the term assertion, it means a declaration. Declaration, or a representation. If I explain this to you in Hindi, basically it means दावे के साथ कुछ कहना. ठीक है? So if the management of a company, let's say our client is A Limited. If the management of the company has to tell the users of the financial statement that A Limited may plant and machinery is coming at the historical value of 2 CR. So what is the option available to the management? Will it get it printed in the newspaper or a magazine? No. The management will declare such amount, will declare such information in the financial statements. Right? The management is going to assert, declare or represent such information in the financial statement. है ना? तो assertion कौन देता है? Management. That is those who are responsible for preparation of financial statement, because they are aware about the business activities or the financials of the organization, right? So representations by management. Explicit is what? Expressly mentioned. Or otherwise is what? Implicit, that is implied. That are embodied, included in the financial statement. So in order to understand the term assertion, just try to divide it into two parts. In the first part, there is a relationship between assertion and management. And in the second part, there is the relationship between the assertion and the auditor. Abhi, we are discussing about the first part, that is the relationship between the assertion, the term assertion and management. So these are the representations by management. Explicit, expressly mentioned or implied, that are embodied in the financial statement, that are included as a part of the financial statement. It can be as a part of balance sheet, as a part of P&L, in notes to accounts, in cash flow, in statement of changes in equity. So as a part of included in the financial statement. है ना? अब मैनेजमेंट ने तो अपना इंफॉर्मेशन दे दिया, एजर्ट कर दिया, एजर्शंस दे दिया. What is the duty of the auditor now? Auditor is not making such assertion now. So what is auditor doing? Auditor is considering those assertions only. In a very simple language, assertion क्या है? कोई भी information जो management ने financial statement में दिया है, ठीक है। अब उन्हीं फाइनेंशियल स्टेटमेंट को तो ऑडिटर को ऑडिट करना है, उन्हीं फाइनेंशियल स्टेटमेंट को तो ऑडिटर को वेरीफाई करना है ना। सो व्हाट विल ऑडिटर डू? ऑडिटर विल यूज ऑल दोज assertions, all those information, all those representations जो मैनेजमेंट ने दिए हैं in the financial statement, and he will verify all those assertions one by one. Having done that, having verified all the assertion, all the information that management has given, auditor is going to give his opinion on the financial statement as a whole. ठीक है, एक ब्रीफ आइडिया समझ आ गया। तो पहला पार्ट हमने डिटेल में अंडरस्टैंड किया, रिप्रेजेंटेशंस बाय मैनेजमेंट, एक्सप्लिसिट, expressly mentioned or otherwise. This topic, explicit or otherwise, I have done in detail in chapter number 3, so I am not taking here again, that are embodied in the financial statement. ठीक है, अब ऑडिटर का क्या रोल है? As used by the auditor, so these assertions only the auditor is going to use to consider different types of potential misstatements that may occur. Each and every word of this definition is so important. See, as used by the auditor, तो इतना तो समझ आता है कि जो इंफॉर्मेशन फाइनेंशियल स्टेटमेंट्स में मेंशन्ड है उसी को चेक करना है ना। सो दैट इज व्हाई as used by the auditor to consider different types of potential likely, हो सकता है कि कुछ मिसस्टेटमेंट हो, whether due to fraud and error, अभी the auditor is not sure ना। So potential likely misstatements, and misstatements can be due to fraud or error that may occur. ऐसा हो सकता है ना, may occur. The word may here is also very important, है ना। तो अभी हमने सिर्फ क्या पढ़ा है कि assertion होता क्या है। So we have seen, in order to have a better understanding, what I have done is I have divided this definition into two parts. First is the relationship of assertion and the management of the company, and the second part is what the relationship of assertion and the auditor. अगर सिंपल वर्ड्स में समझोगे, जो भी इंफॉर्मेशन मैनेजमेंट ने फाइनेंशियल स्टेटमेंट्स पे लिखी है वो assertion होती है। ऑडिटर का क्या रोल है? Auditor has to check all those assertions only. Why? Because we have seen a paragraph of chapter number 3 that unless and until auditor, see यहाँ लिखा है ना, but to formulate and offer an opinion on the overall truth of these statement, he has first to inquire into the truth of many specific assertions. देखो P&L देखना है, whether it is giving a true and fair view or not, balance sheet का देखना है, तो each and every income and expense item को जब तक auditor verify नहीं कर लेगा, unless and until he has a comfort with respect to all those assertions, he cannot give his opinion on the financial statement as a whole. As simple as that. ठीक है, तभी हम assertions को बहुत डिटेल में पढ़ते हैं, because the auditor works at the assertion level. अभी आपने कहाँ पढ़ा है that the auditor works at the assertion level? Chapter number 3 में हमने पढ़ा है. Let us just look at it. See, when I say that auditor works at the assertion level, so I want to say that the auditor performs the audit procedures. पढ़े थे ना, that inquiry, external confirmation, analytical procedures, remember, performance, recalculation, है ना, ये सब पढ़ा है ना हमने, बहुत डिटेल में किया है, and I want all of you to reply, है ना। So auditor performs what? Audit procedures. And student, we all have done in chapter number 3 three definitions, that is risk assessment procedures, test of control, and substantive procedures. Risk assessment procedures आपने पढ़ा था, that audit procedures to obtain an understanding of the entity and its environment, including the entity's internal control, to assess whether risk of material misstatement, whether due to fraud and error, is there or not at the financial statement and the assertion level. Test of control क्या होता है? I hope you all remember all these things. So these are audit procedures designed to evaluate the operating effectiveness of controls in preventing or detecting and correcting material misstatement, again at the assertion level. Substantive procedures क्या होता है? These may be defined as the audit procedures designed to detect material misstatement, again at the assertion level. And students, we have done in quite detail as to why risk assessment procedures हम financial statement and assertion level पे करते हैं, and the test of controls and substantive are done only at the assertion level. So see, the auditor is working at the assertion level, है ना, he's performing his audit procedures at the assertion level. देखो assertion, ऐसा कोई ऑडिट प्रोसीजर नहीं हो सकता ना कि मैंने पूरे फाइनेंशियल स्टेटमेंट पर एक ऑडिट प्रोसीजर लगाया एंड आई एम एबल टू नो एज एन ऑडिटर वेदर फाइनेंशियल स्टेटमेंट रिफ्लेक्ट अ ट्रू एंड फेयर व्यू. No, that is not possible. I, as an auditor, I will have to apply my audit procedure on each and every assertion that is been given by the management in the financial statements. So that is why your definition of risk assessment procedures, test of control, substantive procedures includes what? That the auditor is performing audit procedures at the assertion level. So that is why this term assertion is so very important in the audit process. And you will see, students, later on we will discuss that this assertion level simplifies the audit process for the auditor. When the auditor is aware as to which assertion he is going to check, immediately the audit procedure, the relevant audit procedure will come to his mind. Kaise? We will discuss later on. So Sayyed is saying, ma'am, done clearly all these topics in chapter number 3. So students, I want you to further write that, remember clearly all these topics also. है ना? किया था topic, but you should be able to remember that also. ठीक है? Clear? So we have seen the definition of term assertions. ठीक है? Now let us again try to understand this assertion in more detail. Why we are spending so much time on the term assertion? Because I told you this entire chapter is based on the concept of term what? Assertion. See, if our client A Limited, it is having, let's say, a plant and machinery, and the historical cost that is coming, the carrying amount that is coming is, let's say, 2 CR. Okay. Now, who has given this information? Management. तो पहला लाइन ऑफ द डेफिनेशन रिप्रेजेंटेशंस बाय मैनेजमेंट, देखो ये था ना, रिप्रेजेंटेशंस बाय मैनेजमेंट, दिस लाइन. ठीक है. एक्सप्लिसिट और अदरवाइज दैट आर एम्बॉडीड इन द फाइनेंशियल स्टेटमेंट. तो अभी वी आर डिस्कसिंग दिस. ठीक है. सो द मैनेजमेंट ऑफ A Limited has represented कहाँ? Embodied in the financial statement, में. Explicit or otherwise. Now let us have a look at this. Explicit or otherwise say I told you implicit. Implicit is what? Implied. And explicit is what? Expressly mentioned. So this 2 CR is expressly mentioned. You cannot assume this. Hana? But yes, as a user of the financial statement, when you look at this figure of plant and machinery at 2 CR carrying amount, what all assumptions will come to your mind? So I'll tell you the assumptions that will come to my mind. I will assume that the management of A Limited wants to imply that it wants to give an implicit assertion that such plant and machinery actually exist, that if the plant and machinery of carrying amount of 2 CR is given in the balance sheet, it implies that such plant and machinery actually exist. ये कौन रिप्रेजेंट कर रहा है? मैनेजमेंट. क्या मैनेजमेंट ने ये लिख के बताया है? नहीं. इट इज व्हाट? इम्प्लाइड. ठीक है. I will also assume that this figure of 2 CR includes all plant and machinery. It is not the case that any plant and machinery which should have been recorded have not been recorded. That is, there is no omission. मैं assume तो सीधा सीधा ही करके चलूंगी ना, that such plant and machinery actually exist. ऐसा नहीं है कि plant and machinery है नहीं फिर भी management ने नहीं लिख दी. नहीं. Why? Because the management is giving an implicit, implied assertion कि ये plant and machinery exist करती है. This plant and machinery is all, that is, this is what? Complete. The company A Limited is having the right over all that plant and machinery. Hana? That is why if the company is owing, the company has a right over this plant and machinery, then only it is been reflected in the balance sheet of the company. So is it specifically mentioned that A Limited has a right? So these words as such are not explicitly mentioned. Now, this is what? Implied. So explicit or implicit. So I'll assume that the valuation of this 2 CR is correct. The depreciation amount has been appropriately corrected. So these are what all my assumptions. So these are what representations by management, explicit or otherwise, embodied in the financial statement. इतना समझ आता है? ठीक है? Now, I as an auditor am going to verify all these assertions only. कि अच्छा प्लांट एंड मशीनरी अगर 2 CR पे आ रही है तो वेदर ये एग्जिस्ट करती है, तो आई विल परफॉर्म वन ऑफ द ऑडिट प्रोसीजर ऑफ व्हाट, इंस्पेक्शन, फिजिकल एग्जामिनेशन ऑफ दिस प्लांट एंड मशीनरी की अच्छा एक्चुअल में ये एग्जिस्ट कर रही है. आई एम गोइंग टू पुट अ टिक हियर दैट ओके assertion, which assertion, existence assertion of this plant and machinery has been verified. मैनेजमेंट ने इम्प्लाइड assertion दिया दैट अगर 2 CR की प्लांट एंड मशीनरी आ रही है इन द बैलेंस शीट, इट इज एन इम्प्लाइड assertion दैट दिस प्लांट एंड मशीनरी एक्चुअली एग्जिस्ट. Now I as an auditor I am going to perform various audit procedures in order to verify this assertion. I'll obtain a comfort with this assertion. ठीक है? Then the second implied assertion is what? That this plant and machinery includes all plant and machinery that should have been included. Now, in order to verify this assertion, this is what? Completeness assertion. I will perform other audit procedures. For example, SA 580. I may obtain a written representation from the management that management please give this to me in writing that it includes all the plant and machinery that should have been recorded. When the management is saying that it is implying, or one of the implied assertion is what? The company is having the right over this plant and machinery. That is the rights and obligation assertion. Again, I perform audit procedures. देखो rights and obligations के लिए I cannot just inspect this building. Physical examination of the assets से थोड़ी ना मुझे rights and obligations पता चलेंगे. हाँ, if I inspect the documents like the purchase bills, the purchase invoices, it should be in the name of the company, na? So I'll be able to obtain a comfort with respect to rights and obligation assertion. Same way, the next is what? Valuation. I may recheck, recalculate, another audit procedure, recalculation. So depreciation schedule I may recalculate. I may ask the management to provide me with certain other schedules in order to verify this assertion. तो हमने क्या किया, जो मैनेजमेंट ने कुछ बोल के, कुछ लिख के दिया, एक्सप्रेस किया, कुछ इम्प्लाई किया इन द फाइनेंशियल स्टेटमेंट, उन्हीं को ऑडिटर ने ऑडिट प्रोसीजर्स परफॉर्म करके वेरीफाई किया. These are the assertions with respect to one item of the financial statement, that is plant and machinery. Now, with respect to various items of financial statement, your sales, purchases, your liabilities, your assets, your income, expenses, there are a number of assertions. I, as an auditor, I will obtain a comfort with respect to all the assertions of all the items in the financial statement by performing what? Audit procedures. Having obtained such comfort with respect to all the assertions, I will be in a position to give my opinion on the financial statement as a whole. अभी समझ आया assertions को हम डिटेल में क्यों डिस्कस कर रहे हैं, ठीक है? And with this we have covered one more topic of assertions relating to your balance sheet items, है ना? अभी डिटेल में इसको पढ़ेंगे हम, but quickly tell me, is this topic clear? And this example is given on page number 9.2, which beautifully explains कि अगर management ने लिखा है plant and machine, building का example has been given that a building is there with the carrying amount of rupees 50 lakhs. So what all you can assume, और जो भी assume करना है ना, अब ऑडिटर को क्या करना है, वो ही चेक करना है. कैसे? by performing audit procedures. फिर क्या करना है, auditor will give an opinion on the financial statement as a whole. As simple as that. Yes, another assertion can be, Diksha, you are absolutely correct, that it is one of the implied assertion that this plant and machinery is being used for the business purpose. अब उसी को check करना है कैसे? By performing audit procedures, है ना? Let me just have a look at your queries. Himanshu saying, ma'am, absolutely clear. Bhumika, Sudhanshu, Diksha, Manisha are saying, ma'am, clear. See, Darshan has asked a very good question that, ma'am, whether auditor should perform audit procedure for all the assertions or can he ignore some other assertions which are immaterial. So Darshan, you have answered, you have given answer to your question by yourself. You all have done essay 320, है ना? Relating to materiality in planning and performing an audit. So auditor will apply the concept of materiality. He will apply his professional judgment. Based on that, he'll decide his nature, timing, extent of the audit procedures, his nature, timing, extent of the checking that he's going to perform. है ना? अगर कोई assertion important नहीं है for the users of the financial statement, so auditor may check that on a sample basis. If any of the assertion is very important, it is material with respect to the for the understanding of the users of the financial statement, auditor, depending upon his professional judgment and the other factors, is going to decide the nature, timing, extent of his audit procedure with respect to that particular assertion. So Darshan, is it clear now? Darshan, is it clear? And others also, please reply. So Syed, with respect to your doubt of whether assertions are useful to the users of financial statement, you all have done in chapter number 1 that management is giving certain information in the financial statement. Hana? The auditor performs audit procedures here. He gives his opinion on the audit on the financial statement. Such financial statement becomes audited financial statements. Hana? Since the auditor has audited the financial statement, it increases the confidence of the users of the financial statements. है ना? तो जो information management ने financial statements में दिया है वो important तो है ही ना. That is why the auditor is verifying all those information so that based on the audited financial statement, the confidence of the users of the financial statement increases. ठीक है, Syed, is it clear now? See, Syed, you are saying that why in the definition it is mentioned used by the auditor. तो I told you, अभी हम क्या discuss कर रहे हैं? Audit. In context of audit, what is meant by assertion? तो हमने बताया कि assertion क्या होता है? Management will give some information. Auditor is going to use those information only in order to verify whether that information is correct or not. जो financial statement में mentioned है उसी को तो check करोगे ना. और ये सब क्यों हो रहा है? You all have done in chapter number 1 ना, why audit is conducted, advantages of audit क्या होते हैं, किस किस को benefit होते हैं, है ना? So Syed, I hope your doubt is clear now. ठीक है? अभी we are studying everything with in context of what? Auditing and assurance subject. ठीक है Syed? So see, we have done balance sheet captions like your assets, liabilities, equity balance. So let's take the same example of plant and machinery of 2 CR. So one of the assertion is what? That this plant and machinery actually exists on 31st March, let's say 2023. Existence assertion. अब इसको check करने के लिए what will auditor perform? Audit procedure. Which audit procedure? One of the example can be physical examination of plant and machinery कि जाके खुद देख लो कि अच्छा ये यहाँ पर रखी हुई है. It actually exists. है ना? Now, अच्छा पहले ये discuss करते हैं completeness assertion. That this 2 CR includes all. The keyword here is what? All plant and machinery that should have been recorded have been shown in the balance sheet. ठीक है? Cutoff. Cutoff is what? That the plant and machinery that has been reflected in the financial statement pertains to the correct accounting period. ऐसा नहीं है कि जो नेक्स्ट ईयर में कोई प्लांट एंड मशीनरी परचेज किया उसको इसी साल में दिखा रहे हैं. नो, इट इज बिन रिफ्लेक्टेड इन द करेक्ट अकाउंटिंग पीरियड, है ना? वैल्यूएशन, अगेन whether that plant and machinery has been valued appropriately or not. What audit procedures auditor may perform? He may check that, he may recalculate the depreciation schedule, the depreciation amount, है ना? Rights and obligations. Rights with respect to what? Your assets. and obligation is with respect to what? The liabilities, है ना? So auditor is going to verify rights and obligations assertion. तो यहाँ पर auditor what can he check? He can see the invoices, whether these are in the name of A Limited or not, है ना? And presentation and disclosure. If there are certain presentation disclosure requirement in terms of, let's say, Schedule 3 to the Companies Act, है ना? Balance sheet item के लिए Part 1, है ना? So whether that has been complied with by the company or not, है ना? So this is what all the assertions relating to balance sheet caption. Now students, I told you that this assertion का concept ना, it simplifies the audit process. How? See, if I ask you, you are conducting the audit of A Limited, I ask you कि go and verify plant and machinery. ठीक है, verify plant and machinery. This is the first case. Vis-a-vis the second situation whereby I ask you to verify the existence assertion of plant and machinery. Let's say existence and valuation. Quickly tell me which one is more simplified? Under which situation you are able to think as to what audit procedures you will have to perform. In situation number 1 or 2? Quickly send in your replies. Quickly send in your replies. So in the first situation, I've asked you to verify plant and machinery. In the second situation, I've asked you to verify a particular assertion, let's say existence assertion of plant and machinery. So kahan par you will be quick enough to think about what audit procedures you have to perform. So the answer is second situation. Simplify हो गया ना. अच्छा existence देखना है, physical examination कर लेंगे. अच्छा valuation देखना है, depreciation schedule देख लेंगे. Completeness देखना है, written representation ले लेंगे. And other audit procedures, है ना. So it simplifies the audit process for the auditor. Is it clear? So all of you, Manisha, Rajiv, Varsha, Logasundar, Diksha, Dikshita, Bhumika, Rajiv, Himanshu, Darshan, absolutely correct. सबने लिखा है situation number 2. अब तो देखो समझ आ जाना चाहिए what is meant by assertion, ठीक है? Same way we have certain assertion with respect to income statement captions, है ना? अब थोड़ा सा I'll increase my speed. Why? Because अब assertion का topic we have discussed in detail. क्यों पढ़ रहे हैं ये हमने पढ़ लिया. अब ये जो सब है ये हमने चैप्टर नंबर 3 में डिटेल में पढ़ा हुआ है, ठीक है? सो इनकम स्टेटमेंट कैप्शंस, लेट्स से सेल्स ऑफ रुपीज लेट्स से 20 lakhs इज बीन शोन, ठीक है? नाउ व्हाट ऑल assertions are implied or what all assertions the auditor is going to check? Occurrence. See, this is a change of nomenclature only. You will not say that इतना सेल्स एग्जिस्टेड ड्यूरिंग द ईयर. एग्जिस्टेंस तो आप बैलेंस शीट आइटम्स के साथ बोलते हो ना, दैट बिल्डिंग एग्जिस्ट करता है एज ऑन 31st March. प्लांट एंड मशीनरी और एनी ऑफ द लायबिलिटी इट एग्जिस्ट एज ऑन दिस डे. बट सेल्स या योर इनकम स्टेटमेंट, योर इनकम एक्सपेंस, these occur during the year ना. So occurrence assertion that this 20 lakhs have actually occurred during the year and it relates to the entity, है ना? So auditor will verify this assertion. How? Again by performing audit procedures. Completeness, that this 20 lakh sales include all the sales. It is not the case that any of the sales have been omitted, है ना? The sales that should have been recorded in the financial statements have been recorded. The auditor is going to verify that. Cut off. This sales figure of 20 lakhs includes the sales pertaining to the correct accounting period only, है ना? It should not happen that the sales of the next accounting period is also included in this figure. No. How auditor is going to verify that? Again by performing the audit procedures. Measurement, again जैसे balance sheet items में your building, plant and machinery we say valued, valuation assertion. पर यहाँ पे आप value थोड़ी ना करोगे income statement को या expense items को. You will what? Measure. So this 20 lakhs amount has been measured appropriately. The discounts, the GST, everything that was supposed to be calculated has been appropriately calculated. Presentation and disclosure. The presentation disclosure as is required by the applicable FRF has been done in accordance with the applicable FRF. How will auditor verify it? Again by performing the audit procedures. कौन से audit procedures है? देखो audit procedures तो वही सब है ना, inquiry, inspection, external confirmation, analytical procedures, your re-performance recalculation, वो सब तो same ही है ना. You all have done that. The context in which they are used है ना, उनका nomenclature change हो जाता है, वो risk assessment procedures हो जाते हैं, test of control हो जाते हैं, या substantive procedures हो जाते हैं. So when the auditor is actually performing this substantive procedure, it means that he is actually checking, let's say sales के लिए he will perform audit procedure in order to see whether this sales has actually occurred, whether this is complete, whether it pertains to the current period only, whether it is appropriately measured, and whether the presentation and disclosure is as per the applicable financial reporting framework. Having obtained a comfort with respect to all the assertions that are appearing in the financial statement, the auditor is in a position to give an opinion on the financial statement as a whole. ठीक है? Absolutely correct. Bhumika is saying, ma'am, can auditor apply the knowledge of accounting standard 10? Absolutely correct. For PP, or the auditor can apply, and in fact, students, you will see that. See, let's say with respect to PPE, Hana, the management, when any figure of PP is coming in the balance sheet, Hana, ये मैनेजमेंट ने अपनी मर्जी से तो नहीं लिखी होगी ना. मैनेजमेंट ने जो भी एप्लीकेबल फाइनेंशियल रिपोर्टिंग फ्रेमवर्क एप्लीकेबल है ना, लेट्स से योर अकाउंटिंग स्टैंडर्ड्स है ना, द मैनेजमेंट मस्ट हैव फॉलोड दैट. Whatever are the provisions of the Companies Act, the management must have followed that. Now, what is the responsibility of the auditor? Auditor will see whether जो मैनेजमेंट को फॉलो करना चाहिए था मैनेजमेंट में सच में फॉलो किया या नहीं. स्टूडेंट, दैट इज व्हाई इन चैप्टर नंबर 1 you have studied a topic relationship of auditing with various disciplines. As an auditor, we must have an understanding of the accounting standards. We must have an understanding of the accounting entries. As an auditor, we must have an understanding of the various laws that are applicable. So that is why, see how connected these topics are. Chapter number 1 में आपने पढ़ा ना, relationship of audit with various disciplines, जहाँ पे आपने accounting पढ़ा, law पढ़ा, economics, mathematics, statistics, सब कुछ पढ़ा. Why? Because if management, why auditor should have all these knowledge? I think I have said management, है ना. So why auditor needs to have an understanding of all those subjects, है ना. आप तो बोलोगे ना कि हम audit कर रहे हैं, but audit करने का ही क्या मतलब है कि financial statements management ने बनाए by applying all those things. So auditor must be having an understanding of all these things. Then only the auditor will be in a position to check whether वो सच में actually में जैसा apply होना था वैसा हुआ है नहीं. So the way Bhumika has said कि मैम PPE का जब verification होगा तो क्या accounting standard 10 देखेंगे पक्का देखेंगे, है ना. Intangible assets में आप AS 26 देखोगे, हाँ देखोगे. रेवेन्यू रिकग्निशन में AS9 देखोगे, हाँ देखोगे. सो वट एवर एप्लीकेबल फाइनेंशियल रिपोर्टिंग फ्रेमवर्क इज देयर, अगर इंड AS एप्लीकेबल है यू विल लुक एट इंड AS. वट एवर प्रोविजंस ऑफ कंपनीज एक्ट आर एप्लीकेबल, द ऑडिटर इज गोइंग टू चेक दैट एंड देन ओनली ही विल बी इन अ पोजीशन टू गिव हिज ओपिनियन ऑन द फाइनेंशियल स्टेटमेंट एज अ होल. ठीक है. सो वी विल डू वन थिंग, वी विल गो थ्रू द मॉड्यूल टिल द टॉपिक, टिल दिस टॉपिक, till where we have covered so far. Meanwhile, please send in your replies whether it is clear or not. Varsha, please repeat your doubt. I cannot see your doubt. Hana? So please resend it. Let me just share the... just a minute. The PDF. I hope this PDF is visible to all of you. The chapter number 9 from your module. ठीक है. So chapter number 9, audit of items of financial statement. अब तो आप सबको पता है कि audit of items of financial statement क्यों पढ़ना है, because opinion कहाँ देना है, on the financial statement as a whole. Financial statement as a whole पर opinion आप नहीं दे सकते unless and until each and every individual item पे you have a comfort as an auditor. ठीक है. So what is assertion? It refers to the representations by management, explicit or otherwise, that are embodied in the financial statement. This is one part. As used by the auditor to consider different types of potential misstatements that may occur. Okay? And I was talking about this example. See, if company's X balance sheet shows building with carrying amount of 50 lakhs, the auditor shall assume that management has claimed and asserted. तो management ने ये claim किया, ये assert किया. What all assertion? Existence assertion, rights and obligations assertion, valuation assertion and completeness assertion. ठीक है? So the building recognized in the balance sheet exists at the period end. है ना? तो ये क्या है? Auditor is going to assume that, and assume करके auditor is going to verify this also. How? By performing audit procedures. Company X owns and controls such building, rights and obligations. The building has been valued accurately in accordance with the measurement principles is what? Valuation assertion. All buildings owned and controlled by the building are including all buildings. See, the keyword is all here. Completeness assertion. ठीक है? Is it clear? ठीक है? Now the various assertion with respect to balance sheet item: existence, completeness, cutoff, valuation, rights, obligation, presentation and disclosure. ठीक है? So how these tables are given? This is with respect to income statement captions comprising revenue and expense balances, where you have assertions, occurrence, completeness, cutoff, measurement and presentation and disclosure. ठीक है? So abhi we will have a look at it. Just we will discuss this balance sheet wala captions, this income and statement captions. I'll be giving it to you as a homework. Now, how these tables are given? First of all, the assertion name is given. Then it is explained as to what is meant by such assertion. And then this assertion is further explained with the help of one or two examples. So, agar assertion में कोई भी doubt है, just go through these two tables. And also student, these two tables are very important for your MCQs, true false, है ना? आपको direct question आ सकता है that let's say correct incorrect, है ना? That when the auditor wants to see whether all transactions that are supposed to be recorded have been recognized in the financial statement, it means he's checking let's say cutoff assertion. So the answer is incorrect. Why? All, I told you all is the keyword here. So completeness assertion. So go through these tables. One of these tables we will discuss in the class, and the second is as your homework. Balance sheet captions in comprising of your assets, liabilities, equity balances. Existence. So what is meant by existence assertion? That the assets, liability, equity balances exist as at the period end. You all know that the balance sheet is prepared as on 31st March 2023, let's say in our example. So now the balance sheet captions have been explained beautifully with the help of inventory balance example. So let us have a look at it. So what if inventory in the balance sheet is given as 10 lakhs? So what is the existence assertion? That inventory recognized in the balance sheet actually existed as at the period end. ये assertion किसने दिया? Management ने. Auditor को क्या करना है? इसी assertion को use करके देखना है कि कोई potential misstatement तो नहीं है. How? By performing audit procedure. Now exist करती है या नहीं? तो physical examination कर सकते हैं ना inventory का. Auditor can observe the physical inventory count also. So existence assertion. Okay? Completeness. What is meant by completeness? All assets and liabilities, all, I told you keyword here is what? All assets, liabilities, equity balances that were supposed to be recorded have been recognized in the financial statement. Okay? Now students, tell me, see if A Limited has obtained certain inventory for job work from B, that A has to perform certain job work on the material that he has obtained from B, will it be included as the part of the inventory of A Limited? Yes or no? Quickly send in your replies. Quickly, I need answers. if any of the inventory which the client, that is A Limited, and in our case it has obtained from a third party for doing certain job work, है ना? Though that material belongs to the third party. So will that be included in the inventory of A Limited? Yes or no? Quick answers. Quickly send in your replies. Absolutely correct. So the answer is no. C. All inventory units. So when the auditor is checking the completeness assertion, he is actually checking that all inventory units held by the entity that should have been recorded have been recognized appropriately in the financial statement. Any inventory held by third party on behalf of the entity. So this is the second case, that if some inventory of A Limited is held by some other party for job work, so whether that be included in inventory of A Limited. So the answer is yes. Any inventory held by third party on behalf of the entity has been included as a part of inventory balance held by entity as a consignee. On behalf of third party, it shall be excluded. If A Limited का कोई inventory is held by third party, so that will be included in inventory of A Limited. If third party का inventory is held by A Limited, then that shall not be included as the part of inventory of A Limited. Clear? Cut off. Whether all assets and liabilities are reported in the appropriate period. It should not happen that any inventory which have been obtained in the next year, so that is also included in this year. So inventory balance as at the year end does not include any element of next financial year. All items of inventory pertaining to the relevant year shall be included regardless of the location. ठीक है? Valuation. The assets and liabilities have been valued appropriately. That is, the amounts at which they are recorded are appropriate. There have been no understatement or overstatement. अब ये किसने बोला? मैनेजमेंट ने इम्प्लाई किया, इम्प्लाइड assertion आया. ऑडिटर को क्या करना है? इसी को वेरीफाई करना है. How? By performing audit procedures. Why? In order to give his opinion on the financial statement as a whole. So valuation. Now Bhumika, the doubt that you raise कि मैम अकाउंटिंग स्टैंडर्ड्स की नॉलेज अप्लाई होगी, देखो होगी ना. इन्वेंट्री में AS2 आप अप्लाई करोगे ना. इन्वेंट्री शुड हैव बीन रिकॉग्नाइज्ड एट लोअर ऑफ कॉस्ट और NRV इन अकॉर्डेंस विद AS2, है ना. And any cost that could not be reasonably allocated to cost of production or any abnormal wastage should have been included from the cost of inventory. Auditor को यही तो चेक करना है, कैसे इन्वेंट्री कैलकुलेशन चेक करेंगे. ठीक है? Is it clear? Rights and obligation. Entity has the right to assets. That is whether entity has ownership and legal title to assets. And liabilities recognized represent all the entity's obligation to repayment as at the given date. So if any creditor is coming, whether it is actual, whether that is a real obligation of the organization or not, है ना? So with respect to inventory, the entity owns and controls the inventory recorded in the financial statement. That is, purchase invoices have been made in the name of the client. Any inventory held by entity on behalf of another entity has not been recognized as part of inventory of the entity. Okay? And presentation and disclosure, that is, the particular items are appropriately classified, described and disclosed. The disclosures are complete and accurate. For example, so here let's have a look at third example. Share capital. You will when we will be verifying the first item of the financial statement in this chapter, that is share capital, you will see that a reconciliation of the number of shares outstanding at the beginning and at the end of the reporting period, that is to be given by a company in terms of Schedule 3 to the Companies Act. So auditor is going to verify whether such presentation and disclosure has been done or not. Also with respect to inventory, when we will be doing the verification of inventory in detail, you will see that certain format is given by Schedule 3 to the Companies Act, Part 1. So whether such presentation and disclosure has been made or not. ठीक है? Is it clear? So same way, there are various assertions with respect to income statement captions, that is occurrence, that is whether that transaction have actually occurred. So keep in mind the example of sales or purchases here, है ना? तो आपको बहुत अच्छे से समझ आएगा कि वो sales occur हुई है, whether they relate to the entity. Completeness, whether all sales that were supposed to be recorded have been recorded and no transaction has been omitted. Cut off, whether these are reported in the correct accounting period. Measurement, अब valuation ही तो है, but the nomenclature will be what? Measurement. So the transaction sales have been recorded accurately. See यहाँ पर कितने अच्छे से explain किया है. Sales are recorded correctly in the books based on the invoices. Discounts have been properly adjusted or accounted for. ठीक है? Same way is what your presentation for sales of product, services, other operating representation that is required by schedule 3, whether that is given or not. Okay, so is it clear? So is the topic of assertion, is it clear? Quickly send in your replies, and then we'll be starting with the first balance sheet item, which is what? Your share capital. Quickly send in your replies, students. So students, before proceeding further with the first item of financial statement, I want all of you to reply as to whether you are able to, understand what we are discussing, whether the speed that we are following is apt or not, and whether the way we are discussing, whether it is suiting all of you or not. And one of the students was asking about the feedback form. So students, at the end of the session, you must be getting a link with respect to the feedback forms. Now you may fill that. So Ayush, Komal, Dikshita, Loga Sundar, Guduri, Rajiv Kumar, Bhumika, Darshan, Sayyad, Diksha, Himanshu, Sonali. Everyone is saying, ma'am, it is clear. Okay. So let us start with the first item of the financial statement, which is share capital. Okay. What all comes to your mind when I ask you about share capital? है ना, कुछ तो पढ़ा होगा ना. अब मैंने आपको देखो बताया ना, जो चैप्टर नंबर 1 में आपने पढ़ा, दैट योर अंडरस्टैंडिंग ऑफ वेरियस डिसिप्लिन्स, है ना, अकाउंटिंग में जो भी आपने पढ़ा शेयर कैपिटल से रिलेटेड, आपने रेजोल्यूशंस के बारे में जो भी पढ़ा अंडर योर कंपनीज एक्ट, है ना, व्हाटएवर इज द एप्लीकेबल फाइनेंशियल रिपोर्टिंग फ्रेमवर्क. सी फाइनेंशियल रिपोर्टिंग फ्रेमवर्क किसके लिए होता है? फॉर प्रिपरेशन एंड प्रेजेंटेशन ऑफ फाइनेंशियल स्टेटमेंट. वो कौन बनाता है? मैनेजमेंट. तो मैनेजमेंट while they are preparing the financial statement, they must have followed all those applicable financial reporting framework. बस अब ऑडिटर को वही चेक करना है कि वो वाकई में मैनेजमेंट ने अप्लाई किया या नहीं. ठीक है. सो ठीक है, अब बताओ, अगर मैं बोलती हूँ आपको बैलेंस शीट, सॉरी, हाँ चलो, बैलेंस शीट का फर्स्ट आइटम शेयर कैपिटल. शेयर कैपिटल में व्हाट ऑल कम्स टू योर माइंड? We will take a break after 15 minutes. अभी wait, है ना? So no messages for break अभी. एक discussion करते हैं with respect to share capital. Then from the module, we will have a look after the break. So Bhumika is saying, ma'am, everything is going good. Varsha is saying, ma'am, you are explaining well. Manisha is saying, ma'am, understood. So that is really very good. So tell me, what all comes to your mind when I ask you about share capital? Share capital. Darshan is saying, ma'am, authorized capital, issued capital, subscribed, called up, paid up must be presented separately, notes to account. हाँ, तो देखो क्या माइंड में आया? प्रेजेंटेशन एंड डिस्क्लोजर. उसको कैसे चेक करना है? ऑडिट प्रोसीजर्स परफॉर्म करेंगे, है ना. सो दीक्षा इज सेइंग, मैम, इक्विटी शेयर्स, प्रेफरेंस शेयर्स, फेस वैल्यू. ठीक है, चलो ठीक है. नाउ माय नेक्स्ट क्वेश्चन टू यू. If I ask you that you are conducting the audit of A Limited, and I ask you that go and see whether there has been any fresh issue of share capital during the year or not, what is the first document that comes to your mind? अब आपको ये चैप्टर कैसे पढ़ना है, आपको सिर्फ ये सोचना है कि अच्छा ये वाला आइटम है ऑफ द फाइनेंशियल स्टेटमेंट, ये वाला assertion चेक करना है विद रिस्पेक्ट टू दिस पर्टिकुलर आइटम ऑफ द फाइनेंशियल स्टेटमेंट. So what all documents I can check, what all audit procedure I can perform, है ना. So my very specific question to you is, if I ask you to see as to whether there has been any increase in the issued share capital during the year, आप कैसे चेक करोगे? बहुत बेसिक डॉक्यूमेंट है ना. हाँ स्टूडेंट्स, अभी वी आर नॉट गोइंग इन डिटेल कि ऑथराइज कितना होता है. हाँ, यू आर एब्सोल्युटली करेक्ट, मैक्सिमम कैपिटल है बाय मेमोरेंडम ऑफ एसोसिएशन, है ना. ये सब कुछ है. Whatever you have understood, yes, prospectus, everything is there. All those concepts that you have understood in your accounts, in your law, है ना, वो सब तो that understanding is required, है ना. Now answer to my question that if I want to see whether during the year कोई fresh issue हुआ है या नहीं, क्या basic document है जो मैं check कर सकती हूँ? Absolutely correct. Balance sheet of this year and the last year's audited balance sheet. आप देख सकते हो ना ओपनिंग क्लोजिंग में whether any fresh issue has been there or not, है ना. Now if there is any fresh issue, what are the audit procedures? If there is no fresh issue, what is the audit procedure? Fresh issue of share capital नहीं है, ठीक है. But in order to have a comfort, auditor can always obtain a written confirmation from the company secretary that I can see that from the balance sheet there is no fresh issue of the share capital. Please confirm this to me in writing, है ना. So this is again one of the audit procedures, ठीक है. Now if there has been an increase, so auditor will have to see now your understanding of accounts, whether such increase in the share capital, whether it is within the limit of authorized share capital or not, है ना. Why? Because authorized share capital is the maximum amount of share capital which a company is authorized to issue by dash. Which document you are going to check now? Quickly tell me. Authorized capital के लिमिट में आ रहा है नहीं, आपको authorized capital देखना है. Which document you are going to check? Quickly send in your replies. I'm waiting for your replies. Authorized capital. Absolutely correct, Himanshu Guduri. Memorandum of association, है ना. So just first of all be present to what we are discussing. हम like I'm asking you specific question कि अगर आपको क्या चेक करना है कि इंक्रीज हुआ है, आपने कहा बेसिक बैलेंस शीट चेक कर लो, लास्ट ईयर की ऑडिटेड बैलेंस शीट चेक कर लो. नहीं इंक्रीज हुआ तो कंफर्मेशन ले लो ना कंपनी सेक्रेटरी से. इंक्रीज हुआ है तो ऑथराइज्ड कैपिटल के लिमिट में है या नहीं, उसको चेक करने के लिए क्या चेक कर लो? मेमोरेंडम ऑफ एसोसिएशन, ठीक है. कोई डाउट है? एब्सोल्युटली करेक्ट राजीव दर्शन, ठीक है. Now students, whenever there is an issue of capital, resolutions are passed. So auditor can see the resolution copy of the shareholders of the board of directors, the minutes of the meetings. Auditor may verify that, है ना. You all have done various concepts relating to what? Return of allotment to be filed, minimum subscription amount to be received, application money, underwriting commission, है ना. Then separate bank account that is to be opened. Auditor is going to perform various audit procedures in order to see whether all these are in compliance with the provisions of the Companies Act 2013. If separate bank account is to be opened, whether that has been opened or not. अब क्या audit procedure करना है? Inquiry कर लो ना management से, document inspect कर लो ना. Clear? Is it clear? ठीक है. अभी we are obtaining a very vague understanding. उसके बाद we will go through the module and things are going to be very much clear to you. ठीक है. Now tell me whether shares can be issued at a premium, and if the answer is yes, tell me what is the section number. Quickly, I need replies from all of you. Now your understanding of accounts and law. So the answer is yes. And the relevant section is section 52 of the Companies Act. So auditor will see if the shares are issued at a premium, whether it is in compliance with the provisions of Companies Act 2013 and more particularly section 52. ठीक है. Can the shares be issued at a discount? Quickly send in your reply, students. So Darshan is saying yes ma'am, shares can be issued at a premium. So section 52 apply किया होगा management ने, है ना? So whether that has been complied with or not. Shares issued, the provisions with respect to issuance of shares at a discount is given in section 53 of the Companies Act. So auditor will consider that whether such provisions have been complied with or not, whether the SEBI regulations guidelines have been followed or not. You will see that various forms are required to be filled with the MCA, or in certain cases, in case of any foreign direct investment by NRI is there, then with the RBI. So whether that forms have been filed with MCA and RBI respectively, whether the requisite stamp duty fees to the registrar have been paid or not, है ना? यही सब तो मैनेजमेंट ने किया होगा ना, when the management must have or the company has made a fresh issue of capital. Auditor is going to verify that only. How? Whatever are the related documents, auditor will verify that. Whoever are the concerned person, auditor will inquire them, है ना? If there are any calculations involved, auditor will recalculate. As simple as that. ठीक है? So no, see, there are certain exceptions where the shares can be issued at discount, है ना? Sweat equity shares, right? ठीक है. So I hope you are clear with what we are understanding with respect to the verification of share capital. ठीक है? So what we will be doing is, first of all, we will see what audit procedures the auditor needs to perform in order to see the existence, the completeness, and the valuation of share capital. Then we will specifically study about section 52, when the shares are issued at a premium, what are the audit procedures the auditor is going to perform. Section 53 with respect to issue of shares at discount. Section 54 with respect to your sweat equity shares. Section 66 with respect to reduction of share capital. And then we will be looking at the presentation and disclosure as is required by Schedule 3 to the Companies Act. Hana, this is the sequence that we are going to study today, and today it will be my endeavor to cover this share capital wala topic in detail along with the topic of reserves and surplus. Okay? So here we will do one thing. We will take a quick break of 10 minutes here. After the break, we will have a look at the module with respect to the topic share capital. Before going for the break, please send in your replies whether you are able to connect with what we are studying. And after 10 minutes, we will be rejoining this session. So quick break of 10 minutes. Manish, break is done now. So students, I hope you all are back after the break, and I can see that Darshan is saying, ma'am, understood all topics, interact with the subject. Are you saying yes, ma'am? These lectures and your free explanation before going to the study material is really very helpful. Sayed is saying yes, ma'am, able to connect and seems to be familiar. Okay. So let us start with the verification of various assertions, that is existence, completeness and valuation with respect to share capital, है ना? बहुत logical है. And students, this is, as I've told you, this is a very lengthy chapter. So what I will advise you is keep on summarizing the points the way you like, है ना? I've also summarized certain topics so that you can get an idea as to how to summarize. A lot of space is given on the left hand side, है ना, in this chapter. You can summarize, and you may not follow this technique. You may follow the technique that you like or you understand better, है ना? So keep on summarizing, keep on making the bullet points so that that is going to help you in your preparation for the exam and in the revision. Okay. Now, if the auditor has to verify the various assertions like existence, completeness, and valuation with respect to share capital, he may check the balance that is appearing in the current year balance sheet with the previous year audited balance sheet. Simple. In case of no change, there is no change, no issue of capital, he can obtain a confirmation from the company secretary of the company that please give this to me in writing that during the year there has been no fresh issue of capital. If there has been a change in the share capital, a fresh issue of share capital has been done, a fresh issue of shares has been made, he will see whether it is within the limits of authorized capital by checking what memorandum of association and the resolutions of board of directors, shareholders, whatever are passed with respect to increase, decrease in the share capital, he will check the resolution copies. He will verify. In case of any fresh issue of capital, he will see whether the various provisions of Companies Act 2013 relating to return of allotment, whether return of allotment has been filed, minimum subscription has been received or not, minimum application money, your opening of the separate bank account, payment of underwriting commission as per section 40 of the Companies Act. So he will verify whether all these are in compliance with the Companies Act 2013. Okay. Further, while if there is any issue of share capital, auditor will verify that it should not be at a discount except for the situations given in section 53. What is section 53? We will be discussing this in detail later on. He will verify whether the shares are issued for cash or for consideration other than cash. When can shares be issued for consideration other than cash? For example, if the shares are issued to the promoters or the underwriters, he will verify that. He will verify whether the SEBI regulations or the guidelines have been complied with by the company, right? Students, further, when the issue of share capital is there, various forms are to be filled, like return of allotment. You must be aware now. So that form is form PAS 3 for your increase in the paid up share capital. So he will see whether if a company is making any allotment of shares or security, so whether such return of allotment has been filed with the ROC in the form PAS 3. So what is the audit procedure? He'll inspect the document. Inspection of this form, he'll inquire the management. Form Asset 7, in case this is the notice to the registrar for alteration of the share capital, like if there has been an increase in the authorized capital. So, and these two are to be filed with the MCA. Okay. Form FCGPR, when there is foreign direct investment by the non-resident shareholder, then this form is to be filed with the RBI. He will see whether the same has been filed with the RBI or not. Further, auditor needs to verify the number of securities issued and the issue price at which they have been issued, and in case of increase in share capital, whether the fees and the stamp duty has been paid to the MCA. Okay. Now, many of you are saying, ma'am, how to write this? समझ तो आ गया कि ऑडिटर को क्या क्या वेरीफाई करना है. So let us have a look at it from the module. Just a minute. I hope now the module is visible to all of you. So auditor will tally the period and share capital, balance, authorized and everything with the previous year audited financial statement. Written confirmation from the company secretary if there are no changes. In case of a change, then whether it is within the authorized capital by checking what the memorandum of association. He will see the relevant resolutions, डायरेक्टर शेयर होल्डर्स के, ठीक है. फ्रेश इशू में कंपनीज एक्ट 2013 के वेरियस प्रोविजन रिलेटिंग टू रिटर्न ऑफ अलॉटमेंट, मिनिमम सब्सक्रिप्शन, मिनिमम एप्लीकेशन मनी, मेंटेनेंस ऑफ सेपरेट बैंक अकाउंट, पेमेंट ऑफ अंडरराइटिंग कमीशन. No share should have been issued at discount. Section 53 में we will study it later on. Check if shares are issued for cash or for consideration other than cash. For example, to promoters or underwriters. SEBI regulations, guidelines, various forms that with the MCA. Asset 7, that is notice to the registrar for your changes in the capital, like for increase in authorized capital. PS 3, that is the return of allotment to be filed with the registrar, Hana. For example, with respect to increase in paid up capital, and with RBI form FCGPR in case of foreign direct investment by non-resident, and he is going to verify the number of securities along with the issue price. In case there was an increase, verify whether the company has accurately calculated the required fee and the stamp duty payable to MCA. Okay. Is it clear? Quickly, all of you reply whether whatever we have done with respect to the existence, completeness, valuation, assertion of share capital, whether it is clear or not. Quickly send in your replies. Then you may get a question that you are conducting the audit of A Limited. During the year, you found that there has been a issue of capital at premium. What are audit procedures you as an auditor are going to perform in order to verify such issue of shares at a premium? Now, students, see, they are writing only this will not work. Hana? You will have to write about the specific provisions and the relevant provision contained in the Companies Act 2013. That is with respect to section 52. ठीक है? See, auditor को क्या देखना है? That whether whatever is required by the Companies Act, whatever is required by the applicable financial reporting framework, वो management ने किया है या नहीं. So if whatever is the part of that thing, है ना? So auditor will have to verify it. Himanshu, is it clear? ठीक है? Now issue of shares at a premium. Let me just take you through the just a minute. So what is the relevant section number? Section 52. So see, when the shares are issued at an amount in excess of the nominal value, so we say that the shares are issued at a premium. Amount in excess of the nominal value. Okay? Now section 52 says that when the shares are issued by a company at a premium, then such premium amount needs to be transferred to a separate securities premium account, and the company needs to state the purpose for which such amount will be applied. And students, this securities premium, it is what? A capital reserve. It cannot be as such used for free distribution as dividend. Hana? It can be utilized only for certain limited purposes which are specified in section 52. So what are all those sections? Let us purposes. So these are what? The securities premium amount can be utilized for issue of fully paid up bonus shares, in writing of the preliminary expenses, in writing of expenses, commission discount on issue of shares or debentures, in providing for premium or on redemption of preference shares and debentures, and for the buyback in terms of section 68 of the Companies Act. Okay? So what audit procedures the auditor is going to see? He will verify whether the premium received has been transferred to a separate account, and after transferring, whether that has been utilized only for the purposes that are being specified. Okay? Is it clear? Is it clear? And Sudhanshu is saying, ma'am, what is this? Just a minute. FCGPR. So just for your understanding, this is what FC, foreign currency gross provisional return. ठीक है हिमांशु, is it clear? Sudhanshu, sorry, Sudhanshu. ठीक है. Now let us have a look at this premium wala topic from your module. So shares issued at a premium. In case the company has issued share that is an amount in excess of nominal value. Section 52 of the Companies Act provides that the company shall transfer the amount received as premium to securities premium account and state the purpose for which it is to be applied. And if the same, so as such there is no restriction on the issue of shares at a premium. And if such amount is not utilized for the purposes mentioned in section 52, then the provisions of this act related to reduction of share capital shall apply as if the securities premium account were the share capital of the company. है ना? If the securities premium account is not utilized for the purposes specified in section 52, तो जैसे आप reduction of share capital में whatever provisions are applicable, and what are the provisions, section 66 में we will be doing this in detail, that will be applicable. Such securities premium account can be utilized for following purposes: towards the issue of unissued shares of the company to the members of the company as fully paid up shares, in writing of preliminary expenses, in writing of expenses for or commission or discount allowed for issue of shares or debentures of the company, in providing for the premium payable on redemption of any redeemable preference shares, for purchase of its own shares in terms of section 68. So auditor को क्या verify करना है? Whether the amount has been transferred to securities premium account and the purpose for which it has been used. So is it clear? Is it clear? Down this next topic is how to verify the issue of shares at a discount. So first and foremost, the company shall not issue shares at a discount except for given in section 54. What is section 54? The sweat equity shares. है ना? Many of you were earlier giving the answers with when I asked you about section 53 and shares to be issued at discount. So I expect that you all have a basic understanding about section 52, 53 and 54. है ना? So the company shall not issue except for section 54 because any issue of shares at a discount is what? It is void. Okay. Also, in case of any debt restructuring scheme in accordance with the directions of RBI, है ना? So in case any of the securities, any of the debt is to be converted into shares, any of the debt is to be converted into shares, and the company is issuing the shares to the creditors in terms of the directions given by RBI, in such a situation also the shares can be issued at a discount. Okay. Further, where the company fails to comply with the provisions of section 53, then such company and every officer who is in default shall be liable to a penalty which may extend up to rupees 5 lakhs or the amount of issue of shares, whichever is less. Further, the company shall be required to refund all the monies along with the interest at the rate of 12% per annum from the date of issue of such shares. Simple है ना? तो section 53 में हमें क्या क्या ध्यान में रखना है? Let me just take you through the through my summary. Just a minute. So section 53, it says that issue of shares at a discount is void, however, except when the shares are issued in the form of sweat equity shares in form of section 54. Sweat equity shares क्या होता है? अभी next topic हम वो ही discuss करेंगे. Or when the shares are issued at a discount to the creditors, when the debt is converted into shares as per the debt restructuring scheme, the guide and according to the guidelines given by RBI. If the company fails to comply, then the company and every officer in default shall be liable to a penalty which may extend up to the amount which has been raised, or rupees 5 lakh, whichever is less. And very very important, the company will be liable to refund all the monies received, है ना, अगर कोई discount पे issue किया है, along with the interest of 12% from the date of such issue. So auditor को क्या verify करना है, that is there any movement in the share capital during the year? If yes, then read the minutes of the meeting. Minutes से क्या पता चल जाएगा आपको, पता चल जाएगा ना, whether the shares are issued at a discount or at par or at premium. And verify that if shares are issued at a discount, तो या तो वो sweat equity shares होने चाहिए या वो आपके debt restructuring scheme as per guidelines of RBI होना चाहिए. ठीक है, is it clear? So students, Darshan, see, if you have the hard copy of the module, so please refer to the soft copies of this chapter which are available on your BOS knowledge portal. There have been certain updations, though these are not of recent origin. So Darshan, you must be having very old hard copy of your module. So I would like to tell you that more specifically for your securities premium, for your discount, in fact, not for securities premium, for the topic of shares issued at a discount, for your topic of sweat equity shares, section 54, and more particularly with respect to the disclosure requirements, refer to the soft copies available on the BOS knowledge portal. And in fact, for this chapter, please refer to the BOS knowledge portal if you are having the old hard copies. Okay? Further, it is also given in your I told you that on the BOS knowledge portal you will get the recent study material. Darshan, is it clear? That is why Darshan, certain points he is mentioning that ma'am, these points are not there in my study. That is the reason. Immediately open the BOS knowledge portal, download chapter number 9 and study from there. Okay? Is it clear? Now the next topic is section 54 relating to issue of sweat equity shares. So quickly tell me, what is meant by sweat equity shares? Quickly, I need all of you to reply. You all haven't replied since long. What is meant by sweat equity shares? Send in your replies. Then only I'll proceed with section 54. Just a minute. So Shubham is saying shares allotted to employees. Himanshu is saying shares given in consideration other than cash. Darshan is saying shares given to employees at a discount. Varsha, with respect to pronouncement, I will resolve your query. Wait. Okay. So sweat equity shares. See, sweat equity shares, as the name suggests, such shares are issued to the employees and directors for the hard work they put in for the company. So these are the shares issued by company to employees and directors at a discount of a consideration other than cash for providing know-how or making available the intellectual property rights or value addition. So here, this is an exception where the company can issue the shares at a discount. But to whom? To the employees or the director or the directors. So provisions are contained in section 54. So there are various conditions that only if such conditions are fulfilled, then only the sweat equity shares can be issued. And what are those conditions? So first of all, the class of shares which are issued as sweat equity shares should be a class of shares which have already been issued. Okay. Further, special resolution should be passed whereby it should specify the number of shares to be issued. the current market price, the consideration for which it has been issued, the class of employees and the directors to whom such shares have been issued. Clear? In case the shares are listed, then SEBI regulations should be complied with. In case of non-listed shares, then whatever are the rules and regulations as may be prescribed, that should be complied with. Further, the sweat equity shares which are issued, they shall have the equal standing as the equity shareholder. That is, they shall rank pari passu with the equity shareholders. मतलब जो equity shareholders के rights होंगे, same will be that of the sweat equity shares. That is, they shall rank pari passu with the equity shareholders. Simple है ना? I hope you all have done this in your accounts also. है ना? That is why many of you were already giving me answers that these are the conditions. So class of shares which have already been issued, along with that special resolution specifying the number of shares, the current market price, the consideration, the class of employees or directors. Listed है तो SEBI का regulation, not listed है तो rules, and they shall rank pari passu with the equity shareholders. Simple. Is it clear? So अभी तक हमने क्या किया है? हमने पढ़ा है existence, completeness, valuation of the share capital. Then we have done section 52. Then we have done section 53 and 54. Rank pari passu is the legal term for saying that they shall have an equal standing as that of the equity shareholders. So जो equity shareholders के rights and restrictions है, same sweat equity shareholders के होंगे. अगर equity shareholders को dividend मिलेगा तो sweat equity shareholders को भी मिलेगा. दर्शन, is it clear? ठीक है. So is it clear whatever we have done so far? And the next topic is section 66 relating to reduction of capital. Before starting with this topic, I want all of you to reply whether what is meant by reduction of capital. Simple topics है ना. Many of you are saying मैम पढ़ा हुआ लग रहा है. हाँ, why? Because आपने accounts में या law में कहीं ना कहीं पढ़ा है. And I told you that auditor needs to have an understanding of all these disciplines. Disciplines is what? Subject, है ना. So देखो, अगर reduction of capital हुआ है, कंपनी ने कुछ अकाउंटिंग एंट्रीज पास की होंगी, कुछ कंपनीज एक्ट का 2013 के प्रोविजंस को कंप्लाई किया होगा, वो ही तो सब चेक करना है. सो उसी के लिए तो यू मस्ट बी हैव एन अंडरस्टैंडिंग ऑफ वट एवर अकाउंटिंग एंट्रीज शुड बी देयर, वट एवर आर द प्रोविजंस ऑफ द कंपनीज एक्ट 2013. ठीक है. प्लीज रिप्लाई to my next query, which is what? Relating to reduction of capital. See, there are 3 modes of reduction of capital. The provisions are contained where? In section 66. So, if the company is having any surplus fund, है ना? So company may pay off the excess paid up capital to the shareholders कि हमारे पास ये excess fund है, ये हम आपको वापस करते हैं, thereby reducing the share capital. ठीक है. The company has certain unpaid capital which is not required now. So company may reduce such unpaid capital. यहाँ तो क्या था? Paid था. और ये unpaid है. तो the company is now telling the shareholders that we haven't called it up. This part of capital is unpaid and we don't want it also. So the company may again reduce the capital. Or if the company has certain assets which are, overvalued, been shown by lost capital, so the company may cancel the lost capital also, thereby reducing the share capital. ठीक है. So the company may go for reduction of capital in terms of section 66, either by reduction in unpaid capital, in paying of excess paid up capital, or by cancellation of the lost capital. ठीक है. Is it clear? Now in this situation, I told you that certain accounting entries must have been made. Auditor will consider that. ठीक है. See, when any reduction in capital has been done, so though nowadays the share certificates and everything is in the demat form, but in case of physical certificate, old certificates would be renewed, new certificates would be issued, old will be altered, or right. Then In case of cancellation of lost capital where the assets are revalued, then accounting entries must have been passed. Certain disclosure requirements of Schedule 3 must have been done. Auditor will consider whether that has been done or not. Hana? You all must be aware that the order of NCLT, National Company Law Tribunal, is required when the company reduces the capital, and the copy of such order along with the minutes of the meeting needs to be filed with the ROC. Auditor will verify whether that has been done or not. After that, the ROC will give an order. So auditor will certificate. Auditor will see where he'll verify that certificate. The order of tribunal may require the company to use the word and reduced. So whether that has been used or not. And it will further require that the memorandum of association be suitably amended, whether that has been done or not. Hana? Is it clear? Okay. So auditor is going to verify all these things also. All these things only. Okay. Let us have a look at reduction of capital section 66. Okay. So a special resolution, see the company is reducing the capital, ordinary resolution to pass nahi hoga, special resolution, and whether the meeting is properly convened and the proposal was circularized in advance. In advance, the members were informed about such proposal. The article of authorization should authorize the company for reduction of capital. Also, a very important condition that there should be no default with respect to repayment of deposits. The deposits that are with the company, there should be no default with respect to repayment of interest or the principal with respect to such deposits. Then only the company can go for reduction of capital. Order of NCLT, National Company Law Tribunal, and the minutes needs to be filed with the registrar. After that, check the registrar's certificate, check the accounting entries, and in case of revaluation is required, then Schedule 3 Part 1K according whatever disclosure is required, whether that has been done, whether the revaluation is properly disclosed or not. Adjustment is required to be made in the members register. Old certificate, I told you nowadays everything is in DMAT, but if in case of physical certificate, so old certificate will be altered or cancelled and new certificates to be issued. The word and reduced if required by order of the tribunal, whether that has been there or not, and whether all the terms and conditions given by tribunal has been complied with or not, and whether the memorandum of association has been suitably amended. Okay. So this was with respect to your reduction of capital. Let me just take you through the module, and Bhumika and Manisha, your doubt will be cleared when we will go through the module. Just a minute. So reduction of capital. So first of all, let us have a look at how the company may reduce. The company may reduce the capital by reduction in unpaid capital, जो unpaid ही है, cancellation of lost capital or paying of excess paid up capital. देखो lost capital क्या है? So it basically means that when the company is making losses, है ना, and the assets are overvalued. Now the assets needs to be revalued. So much of the asset which are not represented by the capital that is being reflected in the financial statement. So auditor will, the management will what? It will reduce the share capital. Okay, Manisha, Bhumika, is it clear? So what all are the audit procedures? Verify that the meeting of shareholders held to pass the special resolution was convened properly and the proposal that was circularized in advance to all the shareholders, and reduction of capital, there should be what? Authorization by the article of association. There should be no default with repayment of deposit accepted by the company or payment of interest on such deposit. It shall not be affected. Not be affected matlab it shall not take place. इफ डिफॉल्ट एग्जिस्ट, है ना, ऐसा नहीं होना चाहिए ना, एक तरफ तो आप कह रहे हो सरप्लस फंड्स हैं, यू आर रिटर्निंग दोज फंड्स, एंड एक तरफ यू डोंट हैव द फंड्स टू रीपे द डिपॉजिट्स और द इंटरेस्ट देयर ऑन, ठीक है. Examine the order of tribunal confirming the reduction and verify the copy of order and minutes have been filed with the ROC. ROC का फिर सर्टिफिकेट आएगा, उसको चेक करो, अकाउंटिंग एंट्रीज चेक करो, अगर रिवैल्यूएशन है शेड्यूल 3 के अकॉर्डिंग देखो व्हाट आर द रिक्वायरमेंट्स ऑफ डिस्क्लोजर, ठीक है. देन दिस इज विद रिस्पेक्ट टू द सर्टिफिकेट्स दैट ऑल्टर करो ओल्ड सर्टिफिकेट्स को और उनको कैंसिल करके न्यू इशू करो. Confirm that the word and reduced if required by the order of the tribunal have been added and check if company has complied with all terms and conditions of the tribunal. Further verify that memorandum of association को suitably amend किया है या नहीं, ठीक है. And if it is by way of buyback then section 68 के provisions will be applicable whether that has been complied with or not, ठीक है. So with this we have finished the various sections that we were supposed to study with respect to share capital ka verification, whereby we studied section 52, 53, 54 and 66. Quickly tell me, is it clear? Yes. Ma'am, at the time of internal reconstruction, company pay of excess paid up capital. Yes, that is a kind of your that lost capital wala example. Dikshita, you are absolutely correct. ठीक है? Is it clear? So later on the reduction has been done na Himanshu, so and reduced, ठीक है. Earlier it was A limited, now it is what, A limited and reduced. Later on it has been reduced, ठीक है. Himanshu, is it clear? Dikshita, is your doubt clear? Now students, I told you that let me just take you through the sheet. ठीक है. So when we were discussing as to what we are going to study with respect to share capital, so I told you that existence, completeness, valuation is assertion with respect to share capital, section 52, 53, 54 and your 66, and the presentation and disclosure requirement, and I think Darshan you were saying, and others also, please listen to this carefully, refer to the module that with respect to this chapter which is available on your BOS knowledge portal, है ना. There are a number of changes if you are having any old version of the old publication of the module, ठीक है. So now with respect to the disclosure requirements, let us just go through the module. So the disclosure requirements with respect to the balance sheet items is given in what? Part 1. Schedule 3, Part 1 to the Companies Act 2013. है ना? ठीक है. So these are the various disclosure requirements. See, ये disclosure requirements किसके लिए applicable है? The company, the management, they need to disclose their share capital in the way it is required by Schedule 3, Part 1 to the Companies Act. अब ऑडिटर के पार्ट पे क्या वर्क है? ऑडिटर विल हैव टू सी वेदर सच डिस्क्लोजर हैज एक्चुअली बीन मेड और नॉट. अब ऑडिटर उसके लिए क्या करेगा? ऑडिटर में इंक्वायर, ऑडिटर में इंस्पेक्ट, ही में परफॉर्म वेरियस अदर ऑडिट प्रोसीजर्स, ठीक है. इज इट क्लियर? नाउ disclosure requirements. So ensure whether the following disclosure requirements of Schedule 3, Part 1 to the Companies Act have been complied with. ठीक है. So for each class of share capital, different classes of preference shares to be for each class of share, be it equity, be it preference, be it any amount of share, the following disclosures are to be given separately. ठीक है. So the number of and amount of shares authorized, the number of shares issued, subscribed, fully paid, subscribed but not fully paid, par value per share, reconciliation of the number of shares outstanding at the beginning and at the end of the reporting period. तो opening and closing के बीच में reconciliation. Who is giving this disclosure? Management. तो auditor क्या कर रहा है? Auditor उसी को तो check कर रहा है ना, ठीक है. the rights, preference, restrictions attaching to each class of shares, including restrictions on distribution of dividends and repayment of capital. है ना? So there are certain participating shares, preference shares, non-participating. So whatever are the rights, preferences, restrictions with respect to each class of share, that is to be given in the notes to accounts. An auditor will check that. Now this point says that A Limited is the company. ठीक है? A लिमिटेड का होल्डिंग कौन है? B लिमिटेड. एंड B लिमिटेड का होल्डिंग कौन है? C लिमिटेड. So this F point says that if the number of shares that B limited is holding in A limited, that needs to be mentioned. Further, if the subsidiary or associate of B limited is holding any shares in A limited, then that is to be mentioned. Simple. Further, it also says that if the ultimate holding, which is C limited in our case, is holding any shares in A limited, then that is to be given. Also, if the subsidiary or associate of C limited is holding any shares in A limited कौन है? हमारा client है. Then that is to be mentioned. है ना? तो ये कौन mention करेगा? A limited management, but auditor needs to verify that. So let us read this point. Shares in respect of each class in the company A limited, held by its holding, that is what B limited, its ultimate holding, that is what C limited in our case, including shares held by subsidiaries or associates of the holding or the ultimate holding in aggregate. So this information is also to be disclosed in the notes to accounts. Management disclose करेगा, auditor check करेगा, auditor will see whether that has been duly reflected or not. ठीक है? Further, if any shares are held by any shareholder holding more than 5% of the shares of the company, then that number of shares will also be mentioned. है ना? If any of the shareholder is holding more than 5% of the shares in the company, then that is to be given. So shares in the company held by each shareholder holding more than 5% of shares, specifying the number of shares held. Simple. Then if any shares are reserved for issue under ESOP, under any option, for example, if shares are reserved to be issued under the employee stock option plan, then the terms and the amounts, that is also to be mentioned, that these shares are reserved to be issued under any option. Now this point, it says that suppose this is your balance sheet date. If 5 years immediately preceding, पिछले 5 सालों में अगर कोई class of shares have been issued without payment being received in cash, that is for consideration other than cash, if there has been any issue of bonus shares, or if there has been any buyback of shares in terms of section 68, then अगर पिछले 5 सालों में ऐसा हुआ है तो आपको वो information भी disclose करनी है. मतलब जब भी वो हुआ है ना, if as on the date of the balance sheet that you are that the company is preparing, within the last 5 immediately preceding the date of balance sheet, within the last 5 years अगर ऐसा कुछ हुआ है that certain shares are issued for consideration other than cash, the shares have been issued as bonus shares, or any buyback has been there, then that is to be given. ठीक है? ठीक है? Then terms of any securities convertible to equity shares. If any equity shares are convertible, if any securities are convertible to equity or preference shares, then that is to be given along with the date of such conversion. In case any calls are unpaid by directors or officers, that is also to be mentioned. If shares are forfeited, then the amount that has been originally paid with respect to such forfeited shares, that is also to be given in the notes to accounts. I am repeating here and again, auditor को ये information नहीं देना है. Schedule 3 के अकॉर्डिंग प्रिपेयर किसको करना है बैलेंस शीट या नोट्स टू अकाउंट्स? द डिस्क्लोजर्स आर टू बी गिवन बाय मैनेजमेंट ऑफ द कंपनी. Then what is the responsibility of the auditor? Auditor will see whether all these clauses as are given in Schedule 3 Part 1 to the Companies Act, whether that has been complied by the management of the company. ठीक है? ठीक है? Now, very important point. With respect to the shareholding pattern of promoters. So be it a listed company, be it a non-listed company, ये information management को देना ही देना है. ठीक है? A company shall disclose shareholding of promoters as below. So shares held by promoters at the end of the year. What is the name of the promoter, the number of shares and the percentage of shares and percentage of such holding with respect to total shares. And in case of any percentage change during the year, है ना, कि starting में किसी shareholder के पास let's say 5% है, now it has increased to 10%, then what is the percentage change in such shareholding pattern? Then that is to be given. Promoters की definition, it has been given that the definition given in Companies Act 2013, that is to be considered. Details with respect to each share, class of shares, it is to be mentioned. अगर किसी के पास equity भी है, preference भी, for each class of shareholder separate information. Percentage change shall be computed with respect to number at the beginning of the year. And if shares are issued for the first time during the year, then with respect to the date of such issue. आपको during the year shares issue हुए हैं, तो opening क्या था आपका 0 था. From the date of issue till the end of the issue, what is the percentage change of the shares? ठीक है? So is it clear? Is it clear? So if any shares have been reserved, that these much number of shares will be issued, let's say under ESOP, then that needs to be separately mentioned in notes to accounts. Bhumika, is it clear? And Ayush, yes, audit report is a public document. If you look at the audit report of various listed companies, आप एक Google करो, audit report for financial year 2021 for let's say Airtel or for Renuka Sugars, you will be able to download it. These are available on public platform. So reconciliation, Darshan, it means opening plus minus purchases and the closing. Reconcile कर दोगे ना opening और closing को. Opening में 1 lakh थे, closing में आपके 1,20,000 है, तो 20,000 has been the new issue during the year. ठीक है? Is it clear, Darshan? ठीक है? So I'm repeating here again that these disclosure requirements, as such auditor is not required to make these disclosures. Auditor is required to verify. See यहाँ क्या लिखा है? Ensure whether the following disclosure requirements of Schedule 3 Part 1 to the Companies Act have been complied with. कौन comply करेगा? Company. कौन prepare कर रहा है? Management. तो management has to give all these disclosures. ठीक है? So is it clear? With this, we have completed our topic of verification of share capital, though a simple topic with respect to this notes to this is what additional regulatory information, which I'll be covering up once we have covered what borrowings topic in this book. Uske baad I'll be taking up this topic. So except for this topic, we have covered the topic of share capital in detail. Now, students, it will not happen that you will get, a full-fledged question with respect to share capital कि आपको share securities premium का भी बताना है, discount का भी बताना है, sweat equity का भी verification बताना है, या reduction of capital भी, disclosure भी नहीं. Obviously, you are going to get a question of 3 to 4 marks on a part of the on any part. For example, you may get a question that what are the disclosure requirements with respect to the shareholder holding pattern, or you are the auditor of so and so company, and what you are going to check with respect to the disclosure of shareholding of promoters that the company is required to give in terms of Part 1 Schedule 3 to the Companies Act. है ना? You may get a question like this. ठीक है? Or a company has issued the shares as sweat equity shares. What all you are going to verify? So section 54. ठीक है? So this is the way you may get a question. Quickly send in your replies whether whatever we have done, that is the topic share capital, whether it is clear or not. Then we will be starting with the topic reserves and surplus. Quickly send in your replies. I'll wait here for your replies and then we'll proceed for the next topic. So Darshan and Bhumika, they have replied that ma'am, it is clear. Others also please reply. Quickly send in your replies. Bhumika, is your doubt clear? Ayush, you also tell me. Is your doubt clear? Himanshu is saying I'm clear. Please proceed further. Chalo, theek hai. Tell me what are reserves? Reserves क्या होते हैं? I'm waiting for your replies. What are reserves? So students, reserves are the amounts appropriated out of profits. Okay. So these are held for the distribution of dividend or for financing the expansion of company, strengthening the company financially, and the reserves can be what? Revenue reserves or the capital reserve. Okay. So Okay. So these are what? Amounts appropriated out of profit. So these are not charged against the profits. वो तो क्या होते हैं? Provisions होते हैं ना आपके. Reserves are what? Amounts appropriated out of profits. ठीक है? And these are as such not intended to meet any liability या contingency or any commitment. है ना? These are what? These are held for purpose of distribution of dividend, or I told you that reserves can be of two categories, revenue or capital. So revenue reserves can be used to supplement the divisible profits in lean years is when there is no profit, है ना? To finance an extension of business, to augment is what? Increase the working capital requirement of a company, or to strengthen the company's financial position. ठीक है? लेकिन capital reserve, can they be used for can they be considered as free for distribution as dividend? No. They are utilized only for certain limited purposes, as we have done with respect to securities premium. है ना? Section 52 में देखा ना, that securities premium account, which is one of the example of capital reserve, it can be utilized only for the purposes mentioned in section 52, right? So the company may, appropriate any of its revenue profit for being credited to asset replacement reserve. तो वो आपका क्या हो गया? कैपिटल रिजर्व. Another example can be your capital redemption reserve, है ना? तो सेक्शन 55 बताएगा आपको कि सीआरआर आप कहाँ कहाँ यूटिलाइज कर सकते हो. तो व्हाट इज द डिफरेंस बिटवीन योर रेवेन्यू रिजर्व एंड कैपिटल रिजर्व? रेवेन्यू रिजर्व्स आर व्हाट? फ्री फॉर डिस्ट्रीब्यूशन एज डिविडेंड, है ना? And these can be used for your financing the extension of business, or to augment the working capital of the business, or to strengthen the company's financial position. But this is not the case with respect to capital reserve, because उनको आप सिर्फ limited purposes के लिए use कर सकते हो, as is given in section 52 with respect to your securities premium, and section 55 with respect to your capital redemption reserve. ठीक है? Decrease in the value of asset, Darshan. ठीक है? Reply to your query. Now tell me again, without looking at the module, if I ask you to trace the movement of reserves, tell me what is the document that comes to your mind? Quickly send in your replies. Darshan, is your doubt clear? Dikshita, reserves are appropriations out of profit, not charge against profits. Is it clear, Dikshita? So Darshan is saying, ma'am, it is clear. And the document that comes to your mind is what? Many of you are saying, ma'am, balance sheet. So audited financial statement of the last year से इस year का compare करो, you will be able to see what is the movement of the reserves and surplus. ठीक है? Now, one of the example of your reserves is what? Your profit and loss account and your securities premium. So let us have a look at these two examples, that how to verify the completeness, the valuation and existence with respect to such accounts. So profit and loss के लिए क्या क्या देख सकते हैं? Trace the movement of surplus or deficit as per the statement of profit and loss due for the period under audit. Statement of profit and loss में आपको P&L का balance दिखेगा. Have a look at it. चेक इट फ्रॉम द स्टेटमेंट ऑफ चेंजेस इन इक्विटी. देखो स्टेटमेंट ऑफ चेंजेस इन इक्विटी में आपका पूरा मूवमेंट ऑफ रिजर्व्स आता है ना, दैट इफ एनी चेंज ऑफ शेयर कैपिटल इज देयर, इफ एनी पेमेंट ऑफ डिविडेंड इज देयर, कंसीडर दैट. इफ एनी पेमेंट ऑफ डिविडेंड इज देयर, देन it is associated with what? The resolutions passed by the board of directors and the shareholders. Consider those also. Simple hai. Further, students, I hope you all have an understanding of AS4. What is AS4? Quickly send in your reply. AS4. Accounting Standard 4. So, contingencies and events occurring after the balance sheet date. So, with respect to the dividend, AS4 says that if any of the dividend has been declared after the balance sheet date, so as such it is not to be recognized as a liability. But yes, in the notes to accounts, the same should be disclosed. So what is mentioned? See, if dividends to holders of the equity instruments are proposed declared after the balance sheet date, an entity should not recognize those dividends as a liability as at the balance sheet date. ठीक है? If it is not yet covered, students, only this is the relevant part that you require for understanding reserves and surplus. So be with me. ठीक है? So it says that AS4 के according, if dividends to shareholders are proposed or declared after the balance sheet date, then the company as such should not recognize those dividends as liability as at the balance sheet date. It should, however, disclose the amounts of dividends that were proposed or declared after the balance sheet date, but before the financial statements are approved for issue. But आपको notes to accounts में तो उसको show करना पड़ेगा, though not to be recognized as a liability as on the balance sheet date. Clear है? So this was with respect to profit and loss account. Securities premium का आपने पढ़ा है कहाँ पर? Section 52 में. So this is already discussed. क्या पढ़ा था हमने कि it should be transferred to a separate account. Securities premium amount should be transferred to a separate securities premium account. Then it should be used only for the purpose as is given in section 52. ठीक है? So auditor needs to consider that. Is it clear? कुछ भी नहीं है reserves and surplus में. Thereafter we have the disclosure requirements, and again I'll ask you all to please refer to the soft copies available on the BAS knowledge portal if you are having the earlier versions of your modules. ठीक है? So Darshan is saying ma'am understood. ठीक है? So let me just take you through the disclosure requirements. I'll see, ensure whether the following disclosure requirements of Schedule 3 Part 1 to the Companies Act have been complied with. So how the disclosure of reserves and surplus shall be classified. See students, when we were doing the various assertions, है ना? तो यहाँ पर I told you ना, see, प्रेजेंटेशन एंड डिस्क्लोजर असर्शन. तो अब हम यही तो चेक कर रहे हैं ना कि वेदर क्लासिफाइड डिस्क्राइब डिस्क्लोज हुआ है या नहीं, ठीक से करेक्ट एंड कंप्लीट है या नहीं, है ना. एंड इफ यू रिमेंबर, फॉर शेयर कैपिटल रिकंसिलिएशन ऑफ नंबर ऑफ शेयर्स आउटस्टैंडिंग एट द बिगिनिंग एंड एट द एंड ऑफ द रिपोर्टिंग पीरियड. सो दिस इज वन ऑफ द पार्ट ऑफ द डिस्क्लोजर रिक्वायरमेंट्स एज इज गिवन बाय Schedule 3 Part 1. ठीक है? आई होप यू आर एबल टू लिंक नाउ. Now we were discussing the disclosure requirement with respect to reserves. So reserve shall be classified as capital reserves, CRR, securities premium, debenture redemption reserve, revaluation reserve, share option outstanding account. Other reserves specify the nature and purpose of each reserve and amount in respect thereof. Again, who is going to give such disclosure? Management. Who is going to verify whether that disclosure is as per the Schedule 3 requirement? The auditor. In case of any surplus in the balance sheet, so see, any surplus amount in the P&L account, that will come here along with the dividend and bonus. Addition deduction since the last balance sheet to be shown under each specified head. So it is basically saying that opening or closing a reconciliation dena hai. How this will be done, it is given here. See. For each component of reserves and surplus, whether the company has disclosed the following to the extent applicable: balance at the beginning of the reporting period, changes if any due to changes in accounting policy or prior period error, total profit loss during the year, dividends, transfer to retained earnings, any other change, and balance at the reporting period. है ना? So अगर सिक्योरिटीज प्रीमियम होगा तो ऑब्वियसली आपका ये डिविडेंड्स, ट्रांसफर टू रिटेन्ड अर्निंग्स, ये सब नहीं होगा ना, तो उसमें आप क्या दोगे? व्हाट इज द ओपनिंग? इफ एनी सिक्योरिटीज प्रीमियम हैज बीन देयर ड्यूरिंग द ईयर which has been added during the year, if any utilization has been there, and the closing. ठीक है? Is it clear? ठीक है? Further, if any reserve is specifically represented by earmarked investment. What is earmarked investment? Quickly send in your replies. So if any investment is meant for some specific purpose, like your sinking fund, है ना? Your debenture redemption fund, है ना? So that is not to be shown as your what? Reserve, but that will be shown as what? Your fund. The term fund will be used. I gave example of what? Sinking fund or your debenture redemption fund. So where any amount has been separately marked, reserved for some specific purpose, so that shall be shown as the fund. And the last point says that if the P&L is having a negative balance, then also it needs to be shown under the head surplus, reserve and surplus only. आप उसको asset side पे नहीं लेके जाओगे. See, debit balance of statement of profit and loss shall be shown as negative figure under the head surplus, even if the resulting figure is in the negative. आप उसको brackets में negative में कहाँ दिखाओगे? Reserves and surplus के under ही show करोगे. ठीक है? So this was with respect to the disclosure requirements, और ये कहाँ दिया गया है? Schedule 3 Part 1 to the Companies Act 2013. है ना? So tell me, is it clear? हाँ, यहाँ पे see, you may get a 4-marker question that what are the disclosure requirements with respect to the reserves and surplus as required by Schedule 3, Part 1 to the Companies Act. You may get a direct question here. ठीक है? So tell me, is it clear whatever we have done so far? So today we have covered share capital, whereby we have done the existence, completeness, valuation of share capital, along with section 52, 53, 54. 52 is with respect to your securities premium account. 53 issue of shares at discount. 54 is sweat equity shares. Section 66 relating to reduction of capital, and the disclosure given by Schedule 3 Part 1 to the Companies Act 2013. Then we moved on to reserves and surplus, whereby we have discussed the difference between your capital reserves and revenue reserves. And then we have discussed कि P&L का या securities premium को कैसे verify करना है, followed by your disclosure requirements given by Schedule 3 Part 1 to the Companies Act 2013. Tell me, is it clear? For fund, Himanshu, a specific purpose has been given ना कि इसको इसी purpose के लिए use करना है. ठीक है, Himanshu, is it clear? Quickly send in your replies, students. Then we will proceed further. Students, I'm waiting for your replies. Just we will have a quick discussion with respect to the next item of financial statement that is given in your module, which is borrowings. A quick 5 minutes discussion and then I'll end the session. Okay? But before starting with borrowings, I want all of you to reply whether the topic share capital and reserves and surplus clear. And I'm telling you again and again that you will, when you go through the module, you will find that you have done all these topics in your accounts or in your company law, or you'll be covering them. Hana? Now, how to write the answer in context of auditing, that what the auditor needs to verify. This you will be able to imbibe if you go through the module once or twice. है ना? See, Shubham, I'll suggest you not to write incorrect sections. है ना, अगर आपको श्योर नहीं है देन डू नॉट राइट, बट ट्राई टू रिमेंबर 52, 53, 54, 66 में क्या है. 52 इज सिक्योरिटीज प्रीमियम, 53 इज डिस्काउंट, 54 इज स्वेट इक्विटी शेयर, 66 इज डिडक्शन. और ये आप अकाउंट्स में भी पढ़ोगे, आप लॉ में भी पढ़ोगे, तो ऑटोमेटिकली वो यू विल बी एबल टू लर्न इट. ठीक है शुभम. हाँ, राइटिंग एनी इनकरेक्ट सेक्शन, डोंट डू दैट. ठीक है, इज इट क्लियर? And there was a doubt of a student with respect to the auditing pronouncements, the books that are available and soft copies available on your BOS knowledge portal. So students, first and foremost, the syllabus that is given in your module that you have to cover from the point of view of your examination. But yes, if you have an interest, if you have time, and if you want to, obtain a detailed understanding about any of the essays, then you can always refer to the pronouncements. But if you ask me that, ma'am, for the examination point of view, then your modules are sufficient. Okay? But if you are keen in, you have an interest of reading the entire essay, that is up to you. If you have ample of time, if you have ample of interest in reading that, you may refer to the pronouncements. But first and foremost, you need to complete your modules. Okay? Okay? Now tell me, students, a very general discussion. Tell me, if I ask you to verify the borrowings of A Limited, just imagine that on the liability side, the company has mentioned the borrowings, like long-term loans, let's say, of 10 CR. Tell me, what all documents come to your mind that you as an auditor will verify? Borrowings को check करना है, be it long-term borrowing, be it short-term borrowing. क्या क्या check करोगे? A very general discussion. Quickly send in your replies. The various provisions of company law that may come to your mind, quickly send in a reply. So Sonali is saying loan certificate. So I can say Sonali loan agreement. Hana? Absolutely correct, Sonali. Then others also please reply. I'm waiting for your replies. So loan agreement, correct. Then in case any loan has been, borrowings has been obtained, then it must have been passed in the resolution of, passed in the meetings of the board of directors, then the minutes of those meetings, Hana. The bank statements, Hana. You will see the interest payments or the principal repayments, whether that is correct or not. Okay. So Himanshu is saying my bank statement, interest payment, interest commitment. Manisha is saying debt agreement. Darshan is saying debenture agreement. Bhumika is saying loan account, creditors account, loan agreement. Correct. If any loan has been taken against the security of any of the property, then what is that security? The fixed asset register you will verify. Varsha, you are absolutely correct. Others also please reply. So students, in the next topic that we'll be covering in the next session, we will be discussing about the borrowings, how to check the existence, the completeness, and the valuation. And here, students, you will see that we will consider the external confirmation procedure. ऐसे 505 में पढ़ा था ना. Now we will see how actually it is applied, है ना. Then with respect to valuation, right? And then last but not the least, the disclosure requirements given in Schedule 3, Part 1 to the Companies Act 2013. ठीक है? So collateral disclosures, if any, agreement condition comparison with normal market terms, absolutely correct, Manisha. Absolutely correct. Okay. So in the next session we'll be discussing this, and along with that we'll be discussing the various notes along with the note that I have left for the topic share capital. Okay. So students, I'm repeating it here again that you like when you go through this topic you may feel that ठीक है ये तो accounts और law में हो गया है. but you will have to study this module once or twice. Why? Because then only you will be in a position to know as to how to write the answers in with reference to the auditing subject, कि auditor को क्या करना है with respect to verifying all these assertions that the question may ask. ठीक है, तो आपको ये read करना होगा, and I'm as I've told you that see ample space is given here, है ना. तो यहाँ पर आप short में अपनी summary and keep on summarizing this chapter because this is a quite a lengthy chapter, है ना. And such summaries are going to give you a bird's eye view of the entire topic. So if you just look at the summary that I made for share capital या reserves, है ना, तो एक quick recap हो जाता है as to what is to be written. ठीक है, and how to learn, many of you say, तो you need to just pick up the keywords और उसी को summary में लिखो. You will be able to remember that. It is not necessary that you should make the summary the way I have made. It is up to you. The way you find it easier, the way you find it understandable, do that. But please do that. ठीक है? So hoping that you will do the homework that is given. And what is the homework? That till page number, let me just, here, 9.20. You will go through the entire module once or twice along with the tables that I have asked you. Hana, those tables are very, very important from the point of view of your MCQ, your incorrect or incorrect, Hana, or your case scenarios. Okay? And in the next session, we'll be starting with borrowings. But before that, go through the module till page number 9.20. Before going ending the session, please send in your replies whether you have understood or not, Hana. And thank you for being a patient listener. Thank you for making this session interactive. We'll be meeting now on the 4th. Okay? So thank you and good night.